Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de my thoughts on the whole Kendrick Lamar performance. Like, duh. I mean, the fact that the reception is divisive made me realize that, hey, for a dude that looks like me, at least I can provide a, third perspective on it, right? A neutral one, perhaps. We shall see. Hey, Zemfuck here. So I think some background info here has to be relevant before I talk about the Super Bowl halftime show. Okay, one, I don't really care about football. I mean, I watch it here and there, but no deep team loyalties. But Super Bowl is obviously its own thing. I love the idea of Super Bowl. It is like the most American of holidays, a glorious celebration of capitalism. So yeah, for once, I'm glued to my seat for both the game and the ads, and well, to be honest, to a lesser extent, the halftime show. I mean, I'm only mildly interested in whatever stars they get to do the halftime show these days, right? But I have learned to manage my expectations since my youth, watching the Super Bowl, alright? I feel like they generally just pick really safe choices. I mean, Bruno Mars more than once, bland AF bands like Maroon 5, seriously? Or big stars decades too late, right? I mean, to me, the best show that I've seen is a couple of years ago with that whole hip hop history, right? Okay, which incidentally also had Kendrick Lamar in it, didn't it? I mean, I am old, so I knew most of the performers in that show except for Kendrick. Okay, so what I heard is that when I heard that he's the headliner, to me that was a big okay, but who is this, right? Now, one thing immediately, I didn't think he fit my complaint that NFL tend to pick the super safe choice. I mean, I know he is fairly young and one of the more daring artists, so props to whoever made that call at the NFL. The real issue for me, though, is that I didn't know any songs from Kendrick besides the vague notion that he was in a feud with Drake, who I also find rather bland and boring. Okay, so I didn't know research going into this show, so there's no expectations. Boy, was I surprised. Okay, obviously this is an opinion. I know the internet will yell at me no matter what I say, so take that for the drivel of what it may sound like to you as that. Okay, relax. No need to defend your polemic self that much. Okay, so if you might enjoy, obviously some rants from a dude with no production skills, clearly. Like, subscribe, share, comment, or whatever. I'll be great regardless, because I just do these for funsies. Hit that bell icon. I don't actually know what that is, but you sure as heck probably do. Maybe. Right? Okay, let's go. Now let's start with the good stuff, right? Because I have to say, I am surprised at how much I enjoyed this performance. I mean, maybe it's because I don't know him as an artist, therefore I have zero expectations going in, but here are my main likes, right? I thought this was a very focused show. There were not a lot of guest stars, but he stuck with who he usually collabs with in the form of like SCA, I think, right? Who I also didn't know, but I thought, that made more sense compared to some other previous year's halftime show where it just feels like cameo for its own sake, and that tends to dilute the product, right? Well, I didn't know any Lamar songs. The whole performance I thought came together and gelled very well, and definitely sounded very catchy. Okay, I can see why people think that Kendrick's considered a great lyricist, right? I thought it just felt cohesive, right? I don't know how to define great popular music, but you know it when you hear it, and his stuff was just like hard to not hum to, even for an old dude like me. Okay. Oh yeah, I also love the red, white, and blue iconography with the dancers, and even Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam. After all, Super Bowl is basically as American as a holiday can get without creating a brand new day off, right? So while I do need some additional research afterwards to better get why his dancers were doing the national colors of the U.S., right? Even initially just going into the performance blind, I thought it was pretty cool to see that thematically there's a whole patriotic vibe going on. Well done, and I think that it just felt like one artist's vision come true instead of some boring melange for a nostalgic's own sake. Okay. Now I gotta talk a little bit about what I dislike, because I love nitpicking, don't we all, right? First, this whole Drake beef thing. I mean, did I really have to watch a whole history of what this beef is about to get remotely up to date? Is this what artists do now? Air their dirty laundry like children? I mean, at the biggest platform that you've ever get in your entire career, you have to say, hey, I win, you suck, yeah. I mean, honestly, maybe that is the most human thing of all. I mean, in our hearts, maybe we're all petty a-holes. at least sometimes, it's certainly reflective of what American society is like in 2025, isn't it? I mean, our current president absolutely is as petty and small-minded, so I guess this complaint really isn't Kendrick Lamar specific, right? Just this day and age. Now, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I did find it annoying that I needed a lot of history of the beef kind of stuff to get the most out of the show. I mean, I enjoy the show, but I don't mind, having to revisit it. But it just feels like homework, where I think the best pop music at its heart should be relatable easily, right? So the requirement of additional non-music or beef-related items, that feels like baggage. But now I get why people are interested in how this stuff can enhance fandoms. But I'm also just generally anti-celebrity, so I couldn't care less who was sleeping with whose wife or what an artist does outside of, their art, okay? Now, I don't care because I don't know them or ever will, so shouldn't the art be the only thing that matters, right? I get it. On this front, I'm in the extreme minority, but my feelings are my feelings, so whatevs. Okay? Now, finally, I want to talk about what I would call, like, bizarre part of this show, which is things like the Crip Walk from Serena Williams. Wait, what? So we're just glorifying actual gangster stuff now? No sense of irony? So don't do the crime, but, be proud of where you are no matter how awful it is? I mean, if that's the case, how can anyone criticize the whole Southerners hold on to that flag of the Confederacy thing? Wouldn't that just be hypocritical? I did find it also, I found it a little weird that there's literally, like, no white people on stage, it seemed like, and since I thought the focus on a single style was a positive, this didn't bother me that much until, hey, maybe next year they'll do a whole show that's different from rap, I don't know, something really country. But here's the problem: if the NFL did go in that direction, next year, and all the performers were white people, I feel like that would be kind of a huge political response or media response that would not be pleasant, right? Now, that whole thought process I just did seems to reek of hypocrisy, right? It's not some DI hire or whatever, but you're telling me in this day and age there's not a single talented black or white rap or country performer out there collaborating across, ethnic color lines that we can tap into? Really? That's not even toss them a bone? I find that totally bizarre. Now, at the end of the day, my opinion is not on Kendrick, right? After all, we all saw a segment of him a few years ago already at the Super Bowl, in fact. So the NFL knew who he was, and that's who they picked. So strangely, if anybody have a problem with the show, they should be blaming, the NFL, right? Now, I think the fact that Lamar streams on it, on his hits has jumped exactly due to audience members like me after the show. I think this totally worked for him, right? I understand that he's popular, but apparently I'm not the target audience, so this is my real introduction to him, and it did its job. I am definitely looking up his music actively now, so hey, I don't know anybody who actually thought this was the worst show ever. I don't think that at all. I don't think it's the best show either, but for me, it's actually pretty high up there, and maybe top 5. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Cheers, à la prochaine.